It's another perfect afternoon for baseball from Jupiter, Florida, the spring training home of the St. Louis Cardinals, Roger Dean Stadium. And Matt Holliday is in the lineup this afternoon. He and his teammates play host to the Washington Nationals. Along with Al Raboski, I'm Dan McLaughlin, and welcome to St. Louis Cardinals baseball on your home of the Cardinals all season long, Fox Sports Midwest. And Al, it's another look today at lefty Jaime Garcia.
Jaime will be making his fourth start of the spring. Last time out, he went 4+ innings, so you'd like to stretch him out a little bit more. Jaime, 13-game winner last year, the same as his rookie season, but you can ask for more, particularly innings pitched from the big left-hander.
And it's a pair of left-handers here today. The Cardinals face Gio Gonzalez, who was picked up in a trade in the offseason for Washington. Spring training 2012, it rolls on this afternoon on the home of the Cardinals, Fox Sports Midwest.
To be a Cardinal really starts with this concept of the Cardinal way. That's doing things right with a lot of class, with the expectations of winning.
And that's a winner! That's a winner! A World Series winner for the Cardinals!
This is who we are. This is how I believe this organization wants things to go. Now let's jump on board and get going towards 2012.
Tickets for the upcoming 2012 season on sale now at Cardinals.com. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, #1 in quality tires and expert auto service. By Budweiser, who reminds you great times are waiting, designated driver. And by Steak and Shake, life needs flavor. Just over 80 degrees here in Jupiter, Florida, along with Al Raboski. I'm Dan McLaughlin. Delighted to have you with us for Cardinals baseball here this afternoon from Roger Dean Stadium. Spring training home to the Cardinals and the Marlins. Also home for two Florida State League teams, the Jupiter Hammerheads and the Palm Beach Cardinals. And there's a look at Cardinals manager Mike Matheny settling in his first season as the Redbird skipper. And pretty much an everyday lineup this afternoon for Mike Matheny. And on the other side, it's Davey Johnson, who decided to take over Washington midway through last season. They had 3 different managers. This will be his first full year with the Nats. And a look at his lineup, Steve Lombardozzi. He's been outstanding this spring. Then Rick Ankiel, Mark DeRosa, 2 former Cardinals, Chad Tracy, Wilson Ramos, Roger Bernardina, Brett Carroll, Andres Blanco, a switch hitter, and we'll see the lefty Gio Gonzalez, and he'll bat 9th. On the mound for St. Louis, a 13-game winner a year ago, and that's Jaime Garcia.
Making his fourth start, went 4+ innings his last time out. Just a total of 8+ innings on the spring. So you really like to stretch out. But by design, the Cardinals really have kind of backed all their pitchers off a little bit, as Mike Matheny very cognizant of the fact that they played an extra month. And, you know, players are creatures of habit. Didn't have that extra month off as they were playing in the World Series. And ultimately, we know what happened. But it's time to get these guys ready for opening day.
And a 75-pitch limit today for Garcia. Look at the Cardinals defense. Holliday, Beltran, and Robinson in the outfield. Freeze for Kyle on the left side of the infield. Tyler Green and Tony Cruz on the right side. Yadier Molina is behind the plate, and Garcia is on the mound. Washington coming in with a record of 5-10-3 this spring. And for the Cardinals, 10-6-1. And of course, those records mean absolutely nothing.
Well, but it is nice to win in the spring. Set that tone, get used to it. Of course, Davey Johnson's team a little banged up, and in their last 8 games, they're 0-7 with a tie. And the Cardinals, they've been really winning at a fast clip.
Steve Lombardozzi is the shortstop, who's batting .306, 1 home run, pair of RBIs. One of the concerns for Davey Johnson coming into this spring is trying to get an effective leadoff man. Last year, they were the lowest in baseball on base percentage from their leadoff men.
It's kind of strange because they do have some speed.
It's chopped foul. 1 ball, 1 strike. They've got speed at the top of their lineup with Ian Desmond as well as Danny Espinosa, who is a switch hitter. Desmond was primarily their leadoff hitter a year ago.
Desmond had 25 steals. Espinosa 17.
And this young man has really caught the attention of Davy Johnson and has pushed both Desmond and Espinosa, that young combination up the middle for the Nationals. Off the end of the bat, and we have a full count.
Dan, you know, the Washington Nationals that finishing low, you know, get those #1 picks, but they've had a chance to really bolster their minor league system. You know, the starter that we're going to see, Gio Gonzalez, they traded 4 top prospects to Oakland to acquire him, and they still feel like they really have a strong pipeline to Washington.
Here's another 3-2 pitch to the leadoff man. Matter of fact, those 4 prospects at the start of spring training were ranked in the top 10 for Oakland as far as their prospects are concerned. At the time of the trade, 3 of the 4 were in the top 10 for Washington. And another 3-2 pitch to the shortstop for the Nationals. Swing and a miss, and a strikeout for Garcia to start the afternoon.
When Jaime Garcia keeps the ball down, he just has terrific movement, changing speeds, and that's his real forte. When he's gotten in a little trouble is when he elevates the ball, and a nice round for Rick Ankiel, who is considerably slimmer, isn't he?
He sure is. He went through a different offseason program, he said. He has been injured this spring, dealing with a quad and a hamstring pull. And the first pitch is ripped into right field for a base hit by Rick Ankiel. Expecting his second child during the summer months.
The third baseman, number 7, Mark
Rick, just what he's done. You know, he started at the big league level as a pitcher and then gave that up. And he really linked his name. The only person that you can make a fair comparison with is Babe Ruth. Now, we're not talking that he's got a Babe Ruth type hitter, but a guy that has success as a pitcher and then also hit 25 home runs at the big league level too.
Well, unfortunately for the Cardinals and the Giants, they never really saw Mark DeRosa fully healthy. He has dealt with that nagging wrist injury the last 3 seasons. And picked up by Washington this offseason to fill out their bench. Third baseman, first baseman, can play a little bit of the outfield, shortstop if needed. And Davy Johnson had him before in the Olympic program and got to know DeRosa. And he said if he ever got back into Major League Baseball as a manager, he was going to seek him out because those two had extended conversations about how to deal with certain teammates and situations in baseball. And he just loved that aspect of him, so he brings him to Washington. Little chopper to short. Only play is to go to first, and there's 2 down. And Keel advancing to second.
Now I find the link because Davy Johnson, we were talking about Schumacher. He said, well, he played for me. And that's where it was in the Olympics.
Team USA.
Team USA. And
here's Chad Tracy batting cleanup. First baseman, former Arizona Diamondback. Number of teams for Tracy trying to make this club.
And first base, LaRoche is hurt again. So that's, you know, guys like DeRosa, Tracy, you know, get a good look.
They have Michael Morse, who burst onto the scene last year, left fielder. He is out and could miss opening day, as well as Adam LaRoche. You mentioned how this team is banged up a bit. Drew Storen, their closer, who was terrific a year ago, he is out as well. He had strep throat, and he's only pitched in 2 games this spring because of triceps and biceps tendonitis. So there's a little concern with the closer of the Nationals.
They did, one of their acquisitions this winter was Brad Lidge. So,
right.
And they say he's throwing the ball pretty well.
Here's the 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss, and 2 strikeouts for Garcia here in the first, and the Cardinals coming up in their half. From Roger Dean Stadium on Fox Sports Midwest. Tough to get a ticket here at Roger Dean Stadium. It's been sold out numerous times already in spring training. And let's take a look at Mike Matheny's lineup. Tyler Green, Carlos Beltran, and Matt Holliday in the first, followed by Freese, Molina, and Fractal, Robinson, Cruz, and Jaime Garcia. Gio Gonzalez comes over from the American League and gets the start today for Washington.
Hard-throwing left-hander. And last 2 seasons for Oakland, he was 31-12 with a 3.17 ERA. Very good ERA for the American League. And he's got 4 years of Major League experience.
And the first pitch to Tyler Green. One of the concerns for Washington, they've worked on it here in spring training, but this just may be the way he is that he'll go deep into counts. And he throws an awful lot of pitches. Grounded out to short Tyler Green. Led the American League in walks a year ago. Defensively, behind Gonzalez, Bernardina, and Keel, and Carroll in the outfield. DeRosa, Lambandarzi is at short. Blanco and Tracy on the right side of the infield, and Wilson Ramos behind the plate. Our first look at Carlos Beltran.
Get on there.
Grounded off the glove of DeRosa, and it's a one-out base hit.
Catch that ball.
Beltran can stay healthy. I think the Cardinal fans will be very, very pleased with the offensive production.
And really, Al, when you think about this team, it's an older veteran group. Holliday, who's up right now, Berkman, Beltran, you know, those kind of players, if they can stay healthy, this team is going to put up some runs.
No doubt about it. But, you know, then you've got a couple young guys like David Freese and Alan Craig have to show that they can stay healthy also. But isn't that the case every year? We always talk about health.
A lot of teams do that too. But this year, more so than ever with the Cardinals, as Holliday takes a strike on the outside corner. He's had a very fine spring, hitting .464, 2 home runs, and 7 driven in.
Say it every year, but we just seem like Holliday is poised for a big season. He can stay away from those freak injuries.
Last year was the appendectomy bug in his ear one night. He had to leave the ball game because of that.
Hurt his back with a 5-pound weight.
Does Al Hrabosky have a neck brace on every year? I mean, what are we doing?
And that's a pitch that's taken upstairs. 2 balls and 1 strike.
You know, when I fucking wore him out. You hear about that?
2 balls and 1 strike on Matt Holliday. And he hits it just over the Cardinal dugout. Hopefully the fans are going to be okay.
Why don't they just extend the screen down to the end of the dugout? Make that happen.
Young fans there get to great seats, but look out. John Mozeliak, you know, he's a little safer back 3 or 4 rows. Way to protect the kids.
The 2-2 pitch. Ooh, it just missed inside. Al told you a little bit about Gonzalez and what he's done the last couple of seasons. He's won 15-plus games and also thrown at least 200 innings the last 2 years for the A's. Gave up the 4 prospects to get him.
I kept having good starts, and then 4th, 5th inning, hit a wall.
And that's a ball inside. So a good chance here for David Freese, who has 3 home runs this spring. One of the reasons why so many fans are excited about what's happening with the Washington Nationals is that Steven Strasburg is healthy, coming off of Tommy John, and he is the opening day starter. That was announced yesterday. They'll open up in Chicago. Then they have Jordan Zimmerman, who kind of flies under the radar, but a guy that also has come back from Tommy John, projected as their number 2. Gonzalez is their number 3. They have Edwin Jackson, who we saw with the Cardinals, and also John Lannon. So pretty good staff.
And you forgot about the former Yankee ace, Wang, who's out with a hamstring right now. They kind of project him to take over the slot, and Lannon kind of be the odd man out if Wang is healthy.
Here's the 0-1 David Freese. Breaking ball, and they say that is a nasty pitch that the National League will see an awful lot of, that curveball from Gio Gonzalez.
Yeah, he has an overpowering fastball, then the good curveball, and a changeup. Shade to right field slightly for David. That's correct.
Great power opposite way, as we've seen. 1-2.
But you kind of touched on it. The real key is be patient. Don't get yourself to going outside of the strike zone. And you can get some, you'll hit in some good hitters counts. Get received walks.
On the inside corner and a strikeout of David Freese. There's 2 away, and it's up to Yadier Molina.
See, Gonzalez sets up on his position on the rubbers, the third base side, to try and help him get in on right-handed batters.
Yadier Molina, fresh off a signing, his 5-year extension. And a common thought at the beginning of spring training before he signed that is that once he hit free agency, if and when he did, he was going to be off to Anaheim to possibly join Albert Pujols. But he felt comfortable here, and Al, I was here at the very beginning of spring, and he made it very clear this is where he wanted to be. He wants to remain in St. Louis. And remember, when he first came up, it was Mike Matheny who was battling for playing time back in 2004.
I remember we talked about how Mike shows, the class that he has, that how he understood and tutored Molina.
Runner goes from second, ground ball left side, and DeRosa stays with it. And the Cardinals strand 2. It's an absolutely gorgeous afternoon. You're watching the home of the Cardinals, Fox Sports Midwest. We're back at it Saturday at noon at St. Louis time. Cardinals and the Mets from Port St. Lucie. And you can log on right now to foxsportsmidwest.com. All kinds of Cardinals coverage, player features, video. BJ Raines has been down here working diligently and covering the team day after day. So all your updates, all your information at foxsportsmidwest.com. Second inning rolls in. Wilson Ramos, Roger Bernardina, and Brett Carroll for the Nationals.
Ramos didn't have a typical offseason, did he?
And we should expand on that. It was a dangerous situation. And we've heard about these things happen before in which players are kidnapped and a ransom is put on them, obviously, to get them back. And that's what happened with Ramos. Scary situation in Venezuela, I believe.
Yes.
A strike at the knees.
And Dan, it's been decades ago, but I mean, I played several years in the Dominican, Mexico, and last year I played winter ball in Venezuela. I never felt safe in that country. I mean, I was in the Dominican during political years where martial law was declared because the taxi cab drivers went on strike because of increased price of gasoline, and all kinds of things. It never felt unsafe. But Venezuela is a little different climate and even worse now.
Here's a 1-2 pitch, and that's tapped foul. This Washington club, almost 500 a year ago. They went 80 and 81, and after spring training, we will not see them until the final month of the regular season. Jaime Garcia with his 3rd strikeout.
Good curveball from Jaime.
There's a look at pitching coach Derek Lilliquist. We saw him last year in the bullpen. Now he's the everyday pitching coach. Dave Duncan has moved on, and Derek has agreed to join us after Garcia's afternoon is through. There's a chance for Cruz, and at first covering was Tyler Green. And Bernardina can get down the line. He beats it out.
A lot of left-handers will fall towards third base. So you bunt the ball down the first base side and perfectly placed. You know, Tony Cruz, the catcher, comes in there and really kind of a tough play. You know, he did get the throw off to Tyler Green, but Bernardino already had beaten it out. It's another one of those. He stole 17 bases, so some of that speed we talk about from Washington, he just got picked off.
Oh, they throw it away, and Cruz couldn't come up with it. Bernardino on to second. He'll head over to third. That'll be an error charged against St. Louis. Remember, you do have Cruz playing out of position, so to speak. Naturally now a catcher. He came up as a third baseman, initially drafted, and then played third, moved to catcher, and they're trying to make him as versatile as he can be if he's going to make this club, and he'll tell you he should have had that one.
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be an error against Jaime, but that ball has to be at least stopped and should have been caught, and it should be an out. Now you got a runner at third base and only one out.
So one out early on in this game. They'll draw the infield in. Garcia's already struck out 3. He's allowed 1 base hit, and that was Rick Ankiel in the first.
Yeah.
Brett Carroll hitting .286 this spring. No home runs, 1 RBI. Penciled in as their right fielder today. The everyday right fielder will be Jason Worth. Pick off at third. Nice play by Freese.
Almost a blind stab as the runner got in the way. Another reason why, you always take that lead in foul territory, but a lot of times you take the lead, when you go back, you get back in fair territory, or you straddle that line so that that throw coming from the catcher, the third baseman doesn't see it. A nice stop by Freese as he was blinded by the runner.
That's pulled foul. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Yeah, they're really asking Jason Worth to get on base and do what his numbers were like when he was with Philadelphia. Signed the big free agent contract and was disappointing last year, but he could be a table setter for the heart of their order.
The check swing did not go.
So a couple curveballs in the sequence, especially a get-ahead breaking ball. There, a much harder one, just to try and get the hitter to offer at it. Once again, the key is to get the ball down.
And another ground ball that's tapped foul. If Washington is to make a run in the East this year, they do need a healthy and productive Jason Worth. I mentioned he's their everyday right fielder. Last year, only a .232 average, 19 home runs. In the previous 3 years, he had hit 29 every season with the Phillies.
Also, Michael Morse and Zimmerman. Ryan Zimmerman, their third baseman, who is now a $100 million man.
Had abdominal surgery last year as his season was cut short. They're expecting, obviously, big things from him, and he's healthy again.
And their general manager, Mike Rizzo, says if he's healthy, he's one of the top 15 position players in all the game.
Compared him to Scott Rowland as far as his glove and his demeanor. Time called by Molina. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out and a runner at third.
That's high praise in my book.
Mm-hmm. One of the really neat things that Mike Matheny did right away was reach out to Ozzie Smith, the rest of the Hall of Famers, but in particular Ozzie. He's not been visible in his time when Tony La Russa was the manager for a number of reasons. And also Whitey Herzog. Good to see the Hall of Famer Whitey down in the dugout and feeling healthy, and he's here today. 2-2 pitch. Good strikeout. 4 on the afternoon for Garcia. You think about Mets and Cardinals in 1980s, the pond scum, if you will. Davey Johnson was at the helm of those teams, and Whitey, of course, in St. Louis, and those two hooking up before the game.
Well, they're two very close friends. They even had a business venture, a fishing camp up north of Florida. But Whitey was telling me, he said Davey Johnson called him up a few years ago. So why can't I get a job? Whitey said, well, you had the best talent in baseball for 7 years. You only won once. The honesty of Whitey, it's great.
Managed 3 different teams, Davey Johnson. Mets. He was also with the Baltimore and the Reds, and 3 different teams that got into postseason play, and 1 team that didn't, the Dodgers.
He also played on 2 world championship teams and managed a world championship team.
He has put a little pressure on himself, too. Remember, he's on record for saying a couple of weeks ago, fire me if we don't make the playoffs.
He's 69.
Here's a 1-1 pitch. Another nasty pitch in on the hands of Andres Blanco, a switch hitter, and their second baseman today. He only has 2 hits the entire spring.
2 hits and 1 home run. He doesn't look quite like a home run hitter, does he?
Mm-mm. Here's a 1-2 pitch. A liner prodded short by Rafael Furcal. The Cardinals shortstop leads it off when we come back. Opening weekend at Busch Stadium features the Chicago Cubs, and all fans with a ticket have an opportunity to receive and display a 3-foot by 5-foot replica of the 2011 World Championship pennant flag, which will be raised in center field at Busch Stadium that weekend. Number 11. The Cardinals going for 12-12. Here's a look at the roster. Good luck with that. Something the Cardinals, and we touched upon this with John Mozeliak last weekend, that they did. They didn't sit back and say, okay, we're going to rest here, and these are going to be the kind of guys that we're going to bring back. The same group, if you will, and they have made some significant changes with no Pujols and Beltran here. Furcal pops out. Rafael hitting just .207 this spring. And there's one away, and it brings in Shane Robinson.
Shane Robinson, Komatsu, Chambers, guys like that, all getting a good look with what appears to probably be a disablement for Schumacher. Pull a rib cage, it's almost automatic, that 4 to 6 weeks.
Chipper Jones saying in the last 24 hours that this season will be his last, as Shane Robinson drops in a base hit into right center. We said that before about a week ago, and this time he's saying, I mean it. This is it. He'll turn 40 next month.
It kind of opened up, can of worms when I guess he was playing the Cardinals, and he talked about in terms of if he didn't get off to a good start or something like that, that he might retire. And everyone started, whoa. And then he had to backtrack a little bit, but
what a great player, future Hall of Famer, former #1 overall pick back in 1990. One out, runner at first. That's Robinson, and here is Tony Cruz, who's at first base today, and his versatility may allow him to make the club. The pitching staff has talked about they really like how he handles a game. But Brian Anderson has complicated things. Been a long-time prospect, it seems like, for the Cardinals behind the plate. And this spring, Alley's hit pretty well. Nice job of hitting there by Cruz to go the other way. Robinson on his way to third. They'll fire in. He's safe.
Tony Cruz showed last year that he's a pretty good pinch hitter at the major league level. And when you have Molina, you're not going to get a lot of playing time because he's so durable, but he shoots this one behind. Robinson had to play in front of him, so he didn't need the third base coach. He could make that determination himself. And Brett Carroll showed a strong arm, but he had a little trouble with the exchange, and that might have been the difference being out or safe at third.
Well, these are the kind of situations that Mike Matheny has been thinking about all off season. National League manager, your pitcher's up, runners at the corners. Remember earlier in spring training, the DH was in play. So you didn't have to worry about this, but as spring training moves forward, you get closer to opening day, they start playing more of the typical type games that you'll see in the regular season.
Yeah, matter of fact, it was Tuesday when the Cardinals played the Atlanta Braves. The Cardinals were anticipating using the DH. And Brian Anderson was going to be the DH, and they got up there and they said, nope, no DH. And Cardinal pitchers had not been practicing swinging the bat or anything, so Lance Lynn made that start and was very good, but he went up to the plate twice and was told not to take the bat off his shoulder.
And a 1-0 pitch to Garcia. Runner goes, and it's fouled back. Good cut by Jaime.
Yeah, good rip. I've always said that Jaime's got a nice little swing. Really hasn't translated in batting average, but if you just groove one, he can hurt you.
1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out. Runners at first and third. Mike Rizzo, you talked about him earlier in mentioning Ryan Zimmerman. Well, Jordan Zimmerman, who could be their second starter in that rotation. They've got a situation here with Strasburg, Zimmerman, and Gonzalez. All these guys are locked up. So the core of their rotation is set for years to come. They gave Gio Gonzalez a 5-year extension after they traded for him.
And one of the things that Mike Rizzo has also done, you know, because of all the high draft picks they have and the farm system starting to produce, when they go out and make an acquisition, they usually try and find somebody that's been a winner.
2-2.
At a World Series pedigree. Help bring along young players and teach them how to win.
Last start for Gonzalez was against the Yankees. 3 1/3. Gave up 1 run. Struck out 6, walked 2, 69 pitches that day. There's a breaking ball and goes to a full count. Let's see if Mike Matheny wants to put Cruz into motion here. He's the runner at first. Robinson down at third. There he goes, swing and a miss. Trying to stay in the rundown. They botch it. And the run will score. They mishandle that. And in doing so, the Cardinals take a lead. We head to the third. It's 1-0 St. Louis. Roger Dean Stadium, spring training home to the world champion Cardinals. And St. Louis with a lead of 1-0.
You got a pitcher at the plate, a strikeout pitcher, and this was a design play. Tony Cruz is the real key there. He sells the fact that he's stealing, but he's really not. The purpose is to get into that rundown and then allow the runner to third to come on home before they can make the tag. Shane Robinson scores a run, so Tony Cruz got the base hit behind the runner, sent him to third, and then he put on that little bit of trickery where the Cardinals steal a run. You know, Mike Matheny has tried to utilize speed in every way he possibly can.
Al, he's made that a point of emphasis this year. The Cardinals were 29th in the major leagues in stolen bases a year ago. They had just 57 as a team, and Mike would love to change that.
Just because you don't, you know, a lot of people say you got to have speed, but you can be creative. You can pick pitchers blind. You know, they don't think you're going to steal, and you just all of a sudden surprise them. but get that mindset of trying to score.
Gio Gonzalez, the leadoff hitter for Washington here in the top of the third. Cardinals lead it by the score of 1-0. We have not mentioned the situation of Chris Carpenter yet. We figured we'd hold off until our visit with Derek Lilliquist to find out exactly what's happening with him. And for those of you that don't know, just tuning in, Chris went back to St. Louis dealing with a neck issue and a nerve issue apparently. So he will not be the opening day starter. That assignment will go to Kyle Loesch, and the opening day start at home will go to Adam Wainwright.
Derek Lilliquist, but Kyle Loesch led the club in ERA and wins last season, so a good candidate, and reward him. He's in his final year of the ball club, and hopefully he'll have a good one.
Good start this far for Jaime Garcia, strikeout number 5. Well, Saturday night, tune in for a behind-the-scenes look at the Blues during their breakthrough season. You'll hear what the players and coaches are saying on the ice, from the bench, and in the locker room. It's Blues Inside Access, presented by Bud Light. Saturday at 7 before our pregame show on Fox Sports Midwest. Blues are gunning for the President's Trophy for the best overall record in the regular season. What a year it's been. High chopper, tough play, and no play for Furcal. Well, Bedarzi, the leadoff hitter in the lineup for Washington, is 1 for 2. They talk about him being very similar to Ben Zobrist, that type of player where you could play various positions, infield, outfield. Matter of fact, yesterday he made his first professional appearance in the outfield, but Davey Johnson saying he has made this team and he wants this young player to push the guys at the top of the lineup. Here's Rick Ankiel, who single to right first time up.
And people project Ankiel to be the opening day center fielder.
We have not even mentioned the name of the highly touted Bryce Harper.
Davey Johnson really wanted to keep him, and the front office said, no, let's have a little more conservative approach. But he'll start at AAA, but they say he's the real deal. I kind of was kidding with Bob Boone, who's their farm director, and I said, oh, they sent him down so you could screw him up. And he goes, I don't think I could screw him up. He's that talented. And he's only 19.
That's right, 19 years old. Played a total of 37 games above able. That's it in his entire career so far.
Well, explain how he got signed at such a young age.
Yeah, he decided to rush through high school, if you will, and was able to complete his high school coursework ahead of what would normally be a 4-year period. And in doing so, then he's able to go to junior college. He plays at JUCO, and in doing that, he's drafted at the young age of 17.
Took the GED, early, and missed the senior year, and then, like you said, 17 years of age, he's the #1 draft pick in the country. Got a record price of $6+ million, $6.25 million for a 17-year-old. Not bad.
Not bad at all. 2-1 pitch to Rick Ankiel. And when he was drafted in high school and in college, he played catcher. He's got a cannon for an arm, but they also say he can really run. So the idea was, all right, let's move him to the outfield, make sure that he stays as healthy as he can. And now, because of how well he runs and he's such a good athlete, they're moving him to center field. So he'll play center field at Syracuse. Strikeout number 6. Syracuse being the AAA affiliate for Washington, and because of their poor finishes, they've had high draft choices. Ryan Zimmerman, Chris Marrero, Ross Detweiler, who pitched at Missouri State, Steven Strasburg, Drew Storm, Bryce Harper, and Anthony Rendon.
Yeah, they have 14 first-round draft picks in camp, 7 their own personal picks, including 2 #1s.
What a play here by Freese. Wow, what a play by David Freese. Takes the hit away from Mark DeRosa. Jaime Garcia with 6 strikeouts through 3 innings and some fine defense behind him. Top of the order coming up. Spring training 2012 from Jupiter, Florida and Roger Dean Stadium, along with Al Rabaski and our Fox Sports Midwest crew. I'm Dan McLaughlin. Don't forget, we're back at it again this Saturday at noon from Port St. Lucie. Here's Tyler Green and the top of the lineup, and that's fouled back for strike 1. Last year, there were 19 pitchers who made 28 starts in the big leagues that were 25 years of age and under. And amazingly, 5 were traded this offseason, one of those being Gio Gonzalez. You know, Al, you think about trying to lock up young pitching and you want to keep guys around, but yet 5 of those young pitchers traded away.
You know, I saw Bob Boone and mentioned that he's the Nationals farm director, and I said, yeah, you traded 4 top prospects. He said top. And as you said, you may go to Oakland, and all 4 of those guys are in Oakland's top 10. And I said, well, would you have made the trade? And he goes, well, if I was the general manager, I probably would have made the trade. But as a farm director, I didn't like losing those guys.
I bet. They then signed Gonzalez to the 5-year extension that keeps him possibly in Washington through 2018. There's a curveball, a couple of hops to third. Mark DeRosa with it. And Green, who gets down the line, made it close, and there's 1 out.
Never get tired of seeing someone hustle down the line, and every now and then you'll catch an infielder sleeping. Misjudges your speed, but DeRosa, you know, with all the time he's missed and everything, he can, and the veteran, he time it perfect.
Carlos Beltran, a switch hitter. I found it interesting to see his name in the lineup, batting second and also center field. As he goes down to get this, hits it out to left, and it's off the glove of Bernardino. Beltran on his way to second base. You know, that second spot was always the coveted spot in the lineup ahead of Albert Pujols, and in this situation, he'll hit in front of Matt Holliday.
And he provides what Tony always liked to talk about, danger. You know, they have the ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Beltran rifles this one out there, and Bernardino just boxes it. But as you said, playing center field. He was a 3-time Gold Glove winner in the past when his knees were better in center field. And if he can play center on occasion, then you get Alan Craig in the lineup.
That will be a great problem to have. Try to find the time for Alan Craig. Certainly Holliday is going to play every day. Beltran, Berkman. But trying to keep those guys sharp, and that's something that Mike Matheny has to figure out as we move along in this season.
And I saw Alan Craig doing well. He had 4 bats the other day, and he was getting dressed, going over to the minor league fields where he can get as many at bats as possible down there, trying to come back from the knee surgery.
A check swing. Holliday in the hole, 0-2. Alan Craig said it's amazing what catching the final out of a World Series can do for you. He said his high school retired his number. He's been asked to speak various groups. Here's the 0-2 pitch.
Yeah, you probably get to make bigger donations too to your schools.
You bet you do. No problem with that, that's for sure. That's a great shot there. Lou Brock on the left, Bob Gibson in the middle, Jaime Garcia. Hall of Famers here in Jupiter.
Mention those two that have an annual thing for them now. And Whitey in uniform came in earlier this week. He'll stay, I think, till a Sunday. Always a pleasure to see former teammates.
You wonder how much advice they give or how much they are asked to give that advice by the players now. If it's sought out. 0-2 pitch.
You know, I just speak for Bob, and I know this for a fact, is Bob doesn't really offer anything unless he's asked. But if he's asked, he will give you all the information he has, and you know, and it's very, very valuable. He was probably the biggest influence of my career.
1-2 the count here on Holiday. Beltran, the runner at second base. And why was that, Al?
It just, you know, I mean, I just had the utmost respect for him, but you know, a lot of times it was sit down and be quiet. You know, rookies are to be seen, not to be heard, blankety blank. But if you want to know something, he will share that knowledge, but he's not going to come up and volunteer it.
He was with us, I believe it was last year. Bob Gibson came up into the booth and was very open and animated, but talking about modern day pitching and the fact that he does get frustrated that guys don't pitch inside. And he said, that's why I love watching Carpenter. He said, Carpenter is old school to me. Fun to watch. 3-2 pitch. Holiday chops it foul.
I remember a couple of years ago, he had a very distinct conversation with Carpenter, and he said, you've got good enough control. You should throw more inside. You know, the intent of a ball in off the plate, you know, just to move him back, and then you have the command that you can go and work back in or away and do whatever you want. But, you know, you shouldn't be afraid to pitch behind the count. Your stuff is that good.
In your opinion, Al, the most intimidating pitcher right there, Bob Gibson, that you've ever seen?
Greatest competitor, you know, on the mound. There's been a lot of great ones, but Bob, in my book, is the man. And, you know, on the other side, Lou Brock was a tough competitor himself. And the year he stole 118 bases, I think it was McCarver made the comparison, said it's like a 10-year-old thoroughbred winning the Kentucky Derby, because, you know, he had all the aches and pains. Gene Giesman, the Cardinal trainer, did a phenomenal job just keeping him in the lineup.
Misses in, so Holiday draws the walk after falling behind 0-2. Gonzalez, you can see he's frustrated, and the home plate umpire hearing it from the Washington Nationals dugout. Brings in Freeze. He struck out with 2 runners on first time up.
This is Chris Conroy, the home plate umpire, not the new Cardinal trainer, Chris Conroy. Umpire I've never had the pleasure of yelling at. Or
I was going to say. Uh-oh, where are we going with this one? Freeze taps it foul. David with 3 home runs this spring, and Al, you touched upon this in our game Saturday in Lakeland. You know, don't overlook David Freeze and his defense, and he showed off the leather on a good play off the bat of DeRosa moments ago.
I think a lot of people in the national scene got a misimpression of his defense, as it wasn't real strong in the postseason, but we know he's a very good defender.
One ball, 1 strike. They've been trying to bust him inside.
Everybody knows now his power away, but not only do you want to bust him inside, but you know, he's very vulnerable, particularly to a right-hander, that breaking ball down in the dirt after you've got him conscious of the fastball in.
David has been amazingly gracious with his time with the fans, signing autographs, appearances that he made during the offseason, but he came in to spring training in absolutely perfect condition. I mean, he really worked out a lot this offseason with Matt Holliday. The game within the game right now with Gonzalez and Freeze, in and out, in and out. Two runners on. Cardinals lead it by the score of 1-0, and here's the 2-2 pitch.
Back in. Out over the plate, and a good rip, but comes up with a foul ball.
David Freeze, the MVP of the NLCS, and then why not the World Series? He did that, and you see the infielders that are part of this list. The exception of Hideki Matsui and Cole Hamels, those two, 08 and 09. Other than that, it was infielders. Rick Eckstein, the hitting coach for Washington, David's brother, and David no longer in Major League Baseball. Rick, for a number of years, was in the Cardinals system, the minor leagues, as a hitting instructor.
I'm sure David will continue to work out, waiting for that phone call. How about Andy Pettit?
Coming back. Runners go on a 3-2. Slowly hit to third. 2 away. Two outs, and it's up to Yadier Molina.
I'd like to see that movement, though. Picked up, you know, each picked up a base, getting in scoring position on an infield out.
Gonzalez last year, 4th in the American League with over 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. And also struggled, though, in that walks department. 38th overall pick back in 2004. And 2004, the season that Molina was called up to the big leagues, and what a find he has been. I'm sure a lot of GMs not real happy with that contract extension for Yadier Molina. Thinking about signing their own catchers. And Molina pulls it foul. You get the feeling, Al, that now he's starting to come into his own as an offensive player, and we forget what he did just a season ago.
Well, career high in just about every department for Molina offensively, but we've noticed Ramos catching Gonzalez, you know, instead of the traditionally putting down fingers, you see the touches. Each touch on a knee, chest protector, different areas are just like putting down fingers. One of those indicators is the fastball, or you could be like pumps, you count. All kinds of different ways instead of just traditionally putting down fingers to try and keep the opposition from knowing what you're throwing.
Yadi's in the hole, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Gonzalez has struck out 2. Ramos, the block behind the plate, another one of those young players for Washington. He finished 4th National League Rookie of the Year ballot. Dealing with a sore heel. He missed some time just a week ago.
Talking about Ramos, who saw him when he was very young with Minnesota, one of their top prospects, but got a guy named Mauer. Minnesota got a closer out of the deal in the trade.
Mauer wound up having an off year by his standards. A lot of question marks with the Twins. You're talking about Matt Capps,
yeah.
Al, but a lot of question marks whether Mauer can bounce back, and Justin Morneau dealing with a concussion that's again lingering this spring. The 2-2. Ripped into left field for a base hit. 1 run is in. And here comes Holiday. The throw is cut off, and it's a 2-out RBI base hit for Yadier Molina. 3-0 Redbirds.
Maintaining that 400+ batting average, 2 RBIs. Yadi.
Very good 2-out and 2-strike hitter.
And remember, previous batter, they sent the runners on a 3-2 pitch, put them in scoring position. Got 2 runs out of it.
Here's for Cowell. And he looks at a strike. He signed a 2-year extension this offseason, one of the first moves made by John Mozeliak. You go back to last year, Ryan Franklin struggled as the closer, and Ryan Theriot struggled at short. This may be a base hit. Close play at first, and they just get for Cowell by a step. Molina with RBI 7 and 8 this spring, and the Cardinals lead it after 3. It's 3-0. Yadier Molina, the Cardinals catcher, 2 out, RBI base hit to play 2. Redbirds lead it by the score of 3-0. And so far, so good for Jaime Garcia. If you just joined us, we're in the 4th, and Garcia has struck out 6. He has been very sharp and looks a lot better than what we saw over the weekend in Lakeland.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's got his rhythm. He's got command of that breaking ball. You know, spotting the fastball. He's much more economical in his pitching.
This is hit down the right field line off the bat of Tracy, and it's hooking foul. Home run length, and it hit the truck. That is where the guys are located. Tommy, Mike Helling, Brian McCann, Keith O'Brien, working very hard.
Probably have to stop the telecast, let them go to the hospital or something. They're all injured.
You're saying they're enjoying Florida a little too much.
Oh, yeah. You know, ball hit the truck, so they're inside there. They're crippled.
It's about 65 degrees inside that truck.
And there's their visual. They're looking at that truck.
That pitch is in the dirt. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Ramos on deck, and then Bernardina. Spoils the pitch and hits it foul and out of play. That is now Carpenter, who is your 3rd baseman. Matt Carpenter takes over for David Freese. Trying to show his versatility as well is Matt Carpenter, the Cardinals' 3rd baseman, who can also play the outfield. Wearing number 62. It was this time last year that he really made an impression when John Mozeliak and the Cardinals front office nearly made the team out of spring. Strikeout number 7 for Jaime Garcia. Well, a great way to see a game at Busch Stadium is with a group of your friends or family members. Group tickets are on sale now, and groups of 25 or more get great incentives, including a discount off the gate price in most seating areas. Visit cardinals.com/groups or the number to call. They're standing by right now, 314-345-9500. Should mention that opening day, the only way to head to opening day at Busch Stadium is with the opening day pack, which includes opening day and also 6 weekend games. But right now, that's the only way to attend opening day. 1 ball, 1 strike on Wilson Ramos. Struck out back in the 2nd inning. Davey Johnson talked about his team being more aggressive and not striking out as much as they did a year ago. 7 already today. They led the league in strikeouts a season ago. And Al, they also played in 54 one-run games last year, most in the big leagues, and he thought that was a good thing for a club that has youth, playing those tight games, late inning situations.
And I bet they did pretty good in those games because they had a very solid bullpen.
Bullpen is a strength of this team.
Yeah.
Nice play by Yachty. Throws a bullet to first, and there's 2 away. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of Jaime Garcia.
He's really had command, you know, changing speeds. Fastball's been good, but that curveball, slider, just really going out there and pitching. And for the most part, has been ahead in the count on everybody. What, 7 strikeouts on the day? He's only allowed 3 hits, 1 infield single.
Here's a left fielder, Roger Bernardina. The relief corps, by the way, of Washington led the league in relief wins a season ago.
Was it Clippard? He's kind of the vulture of the National League.
Tyler Clippard. He was an all-star. 5th best ERA for their bullpen, just over 3. Despite throwing the 4th most innings, over 500 from their bullpen a season ago.
Yeah, now that's something that Davey Johnson wants to correct. As when you throw that many innings, you're usually, you're asking too much of that bullpen. You wear them down, but they were young and they were able to do it, but you wouldn't want to do it year after year.
Here's a 3-1 pitch. Bernardina taps it foul. Remember, Davey Johnson took over for Jim Riggleman after he resigned in mid-season. Contract dispute. And Washington finished up 80 and 81. Did not play well at home, and they're hoping to change that again this season.
Well, ball fouled off Bernardina's front foot. He wears the guard there, but no longer is 500 acceptable.
Three-2 pitch. Got him on the outside corner. 8 strikeouts for Jaime Garcia. Bernardina throws his helmet all the way inside the Nationals dugout. Called out on strikes, and we're at Roger Dean Stadium. 8 Ks this afternoon for the lefty Garcia. 3-0. Cardinals on top as we move to the bottom half of the 4th. Shane Robinson will lead it off, the 7th place hitter in the lineup today for Mike Matheny's club. Singled to right center, first time up. Warm, sunny afternoon here in Jupiter, Florida. Goes to right again, base hit.
Yeah, I've had a chance to talk to a lot of the young guys, and they are just loving this camp with all the attention that Mike Matheny has paid to the younger players. Ball up in the zone, kind of just sweeping through. Guy like Robinson really needs to utilize all the field, spray the ball around. Art McGuire has really enjoyed working with a lot of the young guys, say how receptive they are to his comments and advice. But they're all saying, hey, Mike Matheny's treating us like we're big leaguers. And a lot of them are getting a lot of playing time.
And many of them will tell you they just want a shot. You never know what could happen if you make an impression here, and injuries throughout the season with the big league club. That's ripped into left field. Robinson can run. He's on his way to second. He'll dig for third. Jose Oquendo will wave him in. Tony Cruz with an RBI double. 4-0 St. Louis.
Shane Robinson, Tony Cruz, 4 for 4. Tony Cruz helping his cause quite a bit. Say Shane's got the good speed. Ball down in the left field corner. He's got it right in front of him. So he can make that. Then you pick up your third base coach and send him on home. Tony Cruz showed that he can swing the bat a little bit, and a battle for the backup catcher spot. And Tony's kind of, I'd have to say, he's got the inside track.
Garcia looks at a strike.
Your own cause, get a bunt down, get Cruz into scoring position, with only, or excuse me, over to third with only 1 out.
Garcia's showing bunt. Corners are in. Nobody out with a runner at second. Looks at a ball low.
Showed bunt early, but looked like he was going to swing the bat there, and kind of maybe that's only for 1 pitch. Kind of get the defense, put a little doubt in the corners that are playing in.
There's a big breaking ball, misses high and outside. There's been a couple of borderline pitches that have gone Garcia's way that have not gone Gonzalez's way, and you would get the feeling, Al, it's a byproduct of being around the plate.
Exactly right. That was what I was thinking, Dan. Is Jaime, we said that he's been economical with his pitches. He's throwing strikes. In the umpire's mind, Gonzalez is not.
The Cardinals are doing a lot of little things here at the end of spring training in this ball game. I'm sure that Mike Matheny likes to see.
Little things in spring training add up to wins during the regular season. Just simple execution, fundamentals. I was talking to Scott Linebrink, the Cardinal relievers, 10-year veteran, and I said, how do you like this camp? He goes, I've never been in a camp that has paid so much attention to detail, but yet our practices, are very snappy. You get your work in, and then you get out. It used to be when I'd be in spring training, we'd have 2 hours of just shagging pitchers. You just sit there and get stiff, and the Florida win.
That's something that Davey Johnson has talked about too. He said there's no reason for us to have our guys sit around and get tired of being here. Let's try to keep it fresh, keep it moving. And he said, hey, if guys want to go play golf afterwards and that's what they enjoy doing, fine. Just be ready to play when game time rolls around.
Helps that Davey is one of his favorite hobbies is golf.
Sure, why not? 0-2 on Tyler Green with the infield drawn in. Green, the Cardinal leadoff man, has grounded out to short, also grounded out to third, 0 for 2.
Tyler Green can solidify the second base job. It just makes a lot of things fall into place.
Skip Schumacher will be missing time. Green hits a high fly ball out to left. Bernardina is back. He'll look up and it's gone. It's a home run for Tyler Green. His first of the spring. A 2-run shot.
Tyler Green does have surprising power. Remember a couple years ago he hit one up the upper deck, big Mac land. He also has some of the best speed on the ball club, probably the best athlete. So you don't look for necessarily a home run. Gonzalez knew it was gone when he saw the contact. Boy, just good follow through with those wrists, pop those wrists and everything. But Tyler Green's probably the best athlete on the 40-man roster.
A 6-run lead for the Cardinals, and Beltran will dig in. He's 2 for 2 with an infield single, double, and a run scored. Start to stretch now in the Washington bullpen. No activity just yet. That's just foul. Al, here you are in spring training. You've got Garcia and Gonzalez, two guys that, even though they wouldn't say they made the club, they're on the club. Jaime even said, I've got to earn my way to the club. Well, he's going to make it. How much do you want to show against teams that you know you're going to face in regular season play? In particular, when Mets and Cardinals play so much against each other. Same thing with the Marlins and the Cardinals. How much, as far as a pitcher, how much does he want to show? Because he's still trying to work on things.
Yeah, it's there are times, you had more teams in Florida where you could have, say, a new acquisition would never face guys that he's going to play in that league. You'd always play against the other league. But now with so many teams defecting and going to Arizona, Cardinals, really see the Mets, see Florida so many times that, it's inevitable that you're going to make 2 or 3 starts against guys that you're going to see. But we touched on it too. We don't play the Nationals till the end of August and the first part of September. At least going there.
Both times they come to St. Louis at the very end of August, early September, and then we'll see them also at the very end of the season, one of the final series of the year. So
yeah, that's right.
Long time between those ball games.
They come to St. Louis September 28th, 29th, and 30th.
Here's Adron Chambers. Pinch hitting for Matt Holliday, and hits a fly ball out to left. This is well hit. Opposite field, it's off the wall. They'll hold up the runner at third base, and that's Velez, who's pinch running for Beltran.
Sometimes how do you judge in the Florida win? Now watch Chambers, really doesn't have much power. Look, he hit that ball up there, and then it looked like after he made contact is when he tried to push it, rolling his wrist over. But it got up in the jet stream, and just took off and went high off the left field wall.
Brings in Matt Carpenter.
That should be about, when you, as a pitcher, you see a guy make contact like that, that's supposed to be a fly ball out.
Gonzalez has also been frustrated with the home plate umpire in his strike zone here today. Well, Carpenter is hitting at .310 this spring with a home run. He's driven in 5. Good opportunity here with just 1 out. Runners at second and third. Fights it off for a base hit out to left. The wave in Chambers. The play at the plate, throw is offline. He's in there safely. Carpenter drives in 2. He's driven in 7 this spring.
Kind of inside out, flies the ball. So one thing about Carpenter, he really can spray the ball all around. And that can be very frustrating to a pitcher. We're almost out trying to say something positive to Gonzalez, and there isn't much you can say other than, hey, you're getting your work in.
8-run lead on 10 hits. 5 of those runs have come in this inning. And there's 1 down, and here's Molina, who has an RBI single back in the 3rd to score 2. He's also grounded out to 3rd.
Only out in this inning was the sack by Jaime Garcia.
Well, Gio Gonzalez comes over to Washington after last offseason. The Nationals tried to acquire Zach Greinke, and Greinke had a clause in his contract where he could turn down trades, and he turned it down to Washington and did allow the deal to Milwaukee. Swinging away on 3-0. Cardinals would love to improve on hitting in double plays, which they did an awful lot of, a National League record a year ago.
It was a little more palatable because the Cardinals led the National League in runs scored and batting average. So, I mean, they had a lot of base runners, but they had 1, 2, 3 in the National League. Top 3 guys hitting into double plays: Pujols, Molina, and Holiday.
And that's taken for a ball. And again, Gonzalez looking into his own dugout, frustrated with this strike zone of the home plate umpire. Runners at first and second for Rafael Furcal.
You just wonder now they aren't just flat out stalling, trying to get the bullpen ready, but
that's 4 walks by Gonzalez. Go along with the 10 hits.
would you say he's gotten his work in?
I would say so.
You can see he's very talented, but you know, like you said, he gets himself in trouble. Gets himself with trouble where he's pitching behind the count so much. Now, he just missed 200 strikeouts, Gonzalez, and a lot of times, you know, young pitchers want those strikeouts, and they get, and you know, they're trying to make those perfect pitches, and they run their pitch count way up. Garcia's been the opposite today, hasn't he?
Yes, he has, with 8 strikeouts, only 3 hits allowed. Could be the final plate appearance here for Rafael Furcal. He needs to get going. Hitting under 200. And he's called out on strikes. Davey Johnson, the slow walk from the dugout to the mound. He has signaled down to his bullpen. There was a lefty that was getting loose and a righty. And he'll go to his bullpen. When we come back, we'll step aside. Shane Robinson will be at the plate. When we come back, it's all Redbirds this afternoon. It's 8-0. It's 8-0 St. Louis with the lead. Gio Gonzalez is done for the afternoon. Runners at first and second. Matthews, the new pitcher for the Nationals. And the first pitch to Shane Robinson is in the dirt. Robinson today, pair of base hits. He's 2 for 2 with a run scored. Both those hits, line drives into right center field.
Matthews, where he's done his 35 games, 2-2 record.
One ball, one strike. Chopper to short. And they get Shane Robinson by step. Cardinals will strand 2, but they pick up 5. And they lead it after 4 innings of play. It's 8-0 St. Louis. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Budweiser. Remind you, great times are waiting. Grab some buds. And by Schnucks Pharmacy, the smart choice. Glad you're with us. Hot dogs on the grill, sun shining brightly here in Jupiter, Florida. That means baseball. Along with Al Raboski, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Here on Fox Sports Midwest, your home of Cardinals baseball all season long. Jaime Garcia has been the story today. 8 strikeouts, Al.
Well, he's been outstanding. This is as good as we've seen him.
Here's a check swing. New shortstop is Cora, but it's cut off by Carpenter in a good play. Carpenter took over for David Freese, and there's 1 out.
There's an indication when he doesn't strike out, he's fooled somebody in just a check swing. You know, his first game of the spring, he pitched 2 innings against Boston over on the West Coast, and so you'd have to assume they probably had their A lineup out there. In 2 innings, he struck out 4. And the next time out, he didn't have particularly good numbers. He got the ball up a little bit. I wouldn't say he was particularly sharp when we saw him in Lakeland, but this is as good. This is outstanding.
Remember, he had a couple of complete games last year, and this is the kind of stuff that he had.
Sure. And then you look at Westbrook yesterday, pitched 6 shutout innings, only allowing 3 hits. Key to me was no walks. And they say, you know, he's got his sinker working. You know, pitching ahead in the count, not falling behind hitters. Lost 20 pounds, and it looks like it's paying off for him.
Andres Blanco is the hitter for Washington. The changes for the Cardinals. Alex Cora is at shortstop. Descalso takes over at second base. Velez is the right fielder, and Brian Anderson is behind the plate. You touched upon it, Al, on Saturday. We were in Lakeland, Cardinals and Detroit, and you know, Mike Matheny likes what he sees from Brian Anderson, both at the plate and maybe most importantly what he sees behind the plate defensively and what he brings. This is popped up to the right side, a chance for Descalso. The versatile infielder puts it away, 2 outs.
I think in a diplomatic fashion, Mike Matheny likes Brian Anderson a lot more than Tony La Russa and Dave Duncan. But
I think that's fair.
yeah, and you know, they formulated opinion very early in Anderson's career, and Mike said, you know, hey, he was a high school draft. Nobody really worked with him on the nuances of the game, calling a game, doing these different things, and so Mike kind of got in his corner, and Brian kind of told you that, you know, this is kind of a make or break time for him. In my mind, he really hurt his chances on Saturday when he boxed a couple balls, and because most of the time when what you're looking for as a backup catcher is the ability to catch and throw.
Jesus Flores, good spring, couple of home runs. He's driven in 5. Here's a 1-1. a good indication. That swing right there, just the movement, the late movement that Garcia has had.
Well, we've always talked about when he keeps the ball down, whatever he throws, the ball just has great movement.
The 1-2 pitch. Cardinals have a right-hander getting loose in the bullpen, so you wonder if this will be it for Garcia today. Again, we'll visit with Derek Lilliquist coming up at some point in our contest. Once Garcia exits, get an update on Carpenter and maybe some of the plans for that spot in the rotation. Lance Lynn at this point would be the guy.
And Lance didn't do anything his last time out with 4 perfect innings. And then he ended up going 5 innings and allowing, I think it was a run, but he was very good. A run on 2 hits and 1 walk. And that all came in his 5th inning of work.
You know, we talk about the players and those guys going up to the Hall of Famers and asking them for advice. You wonder about Mike Matheny right now and just, you know, running a spring training camp. Does he go up to a Whitey Herzog or Red Schoendienst and ask for a little advice about situations? We'll talk about that. Yeah. When we come back, as Whitey is in uniform and in the dugout this afternoon. It's all Cardinals midway through 5. Host your next party at the ballpark and leave the entertaining to us, as party suites are on sale now. And with a party suite, it's fully catered, all-inclusive menu. They're great for groups of 30 or more, and available right now for the game that you want, the series that you want. Cardinals.com/party suites. Ross Detweiler, another one of those high draft choices out of Missouri State. Record of 4-5. And he's one of the guys, along with Chin-Meng Wong, that they've talked about that could possibly in the future be in the rotation. But Davey Johnson, Al, it's very interesting how he has approached his bullpen. And we talked about the gaudy numbers that they had a year ago. He wants minimum 2 longmen. And he said part of that is because of Strasburg. They're going to limit his innings this year to 160. But he said it may be old school in the way that I've been managing baseball, but I always felt I had to have 2 longmen. And that's what he's going to do this year. So Detweiler could be one of those guys out of his bullpen that's a longman.
If you're going to do that, then guy gets in trouble early, then pull him.
And that's his point.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see if, you know, how many pitchers Mike Matheny takes. Dave Duncan almost always insisted on 12 and an occasion 13.
Well, with more on that, we can bring in right now Derek Lilliquist, the Cardinals pitching coach. First of all, Derek, thanks for being with us. Dan and Al up here in the booth. We appreciate your time, and congratulations on being the full-time pitching coach. I know this is something that you worked hard for and you're really looking forward to this year.
Yeah, it's a very exciting opportunity right now, and coming out here and watching these guys compete is a lot of fun.
How about your starter today? He's been fantastic, and that's Jaime Garcia with the 9 strikeouts, and that's a base hit into right for Tony Cruz. But just a little bit on Garcia and what you saw.
Jaime, delivery was good today, real repetitive. Made a lot of nice cutters in, right-handers, mixed in his assortment. Kept the ball in the bottom of the strike zone.
You know, Al just brought up an interesting point about, you know, how many guys you want to carry and who you carry. If you can give us a little insight into that, what's your thought process and what you need in the bullpen, being a National League team, and you know, how many pitchers you want to carry out there in your bullpen. And there's a broken bat and a fly ball on the right for the first out. But as far as the numbers are concerned, what are you thinking, Derek?
I don't really even think we've gotten that far yet in terms of thinking about numbers. I know we got some off days early in the schedule, and you know, we'll just see how it plays out. We're just going to get these guys prepared physically and mentally, and see how it shakes out from there.
Would you be opposed to carrying 11 pitchers, an extra, bench player?
I'm open for anything as long as it makes sense, number one. And number two is that they're the right guys. So we'll see how it shakes out.
Well, a big question, obviously, around this rotation is the health of Chris Carpenter. And can you tell our fans across the country that are tuned in today what the status is right now on your right-hander?
Well, right now we're just trying to figure out exactly what's going on with him, and until we get exact diagnostics on what's going on, we haven't had a plan for him yet. Once we get exactly what's going on, and we'll devise a plan to get him back into the rotation.
There's a 1-1 pitch to Daniel Descalso. He's in the top spot of the lineup. But the idea at this point, though, Derek, is to move Lance Lynn into your rotation, right?
Yeah, and he's being stretched out as we speak. His next time out, he'll be somewhere in that 75 pitch range, and he's done a nice job to this point.
Yeah, Derek, his last time out, I just got to have a lot of confidence in Lance Lynn in any capacity.
Absolutely, and if you think back to how things were done old school wise and bringing a AAA stud starter in the minor leagues into the major leagues, you take and put him in the long relief role, give him some innings, see how he handles it. And as he handles it and gets himself in a situation where the innings become more important and the situation's more important, he's handled everything we've thrown at him, so this is the next step.
Yeah, and I really like that philosophy. And even if he did make a couple starts or something and you put him back in any capacity in the relief, and then next year when potentially you might be looking for a couple more starters, with the experience he had, you can move him into the rotation and he'd be that better off.
Yeah, we wouldn't rule that out either. So we just have to see how it plays out. We'll prepare him as we see fit and then go from there.
Derek, it's interesting, too. He talked about his velocity last year out of the bullpen. He'd hit 97, 98, knowing he wasn't going to start. How does that change his mindset, maybe velocity-wise, and, letting it fly for 3 outs or 2 outs, whatever the case may be, as opposed to trying to go, at least 6 or 7 innings?
That's a common trap a guy goes through when he goes from, it's raining sunflower seeds over here. We attracted Berkman and Holiday from the game, so that's a common trap. I mean, you come from the bullpen thing, you got to pace yourself. Stuff's not quite as good as it would be for 1 inning, but he's going to go out there with the approach best stuff every pitch and see how far he can go in the game.
Mike Matheny anointed Jason Mott as the closer officially. He's been given that label. How do you feel his spring has gone?
It's gone pretty good. He's working on his secondary pitches just like he has in the past. His arm's in good health, and it's just a matter of getting him out there and letting him get his spikes in the dirt.
I thought it was curious that the veteran Scott Linebrink chose the Cardinals to try and compete in the bullpen with all the good arms from the right side in the Cardinal pen.
Well, and based on what we've seen to this point, his arm strength is pretty comparable to a lot of the guys we got down there. He's done a pretty good job for us so far.
And he does provide a lot of leadership, that veteran guy to give you some leadership down there in the pen.
Absolutely, yeah, he's a proven veteran.
Derek, who else has caught your eye, especially some of the minor leaguers?
That's a no-brainer. Trevor Rosenthal, he came into camp focused, prepared, body in good shape, strong, and he came in focused. He came in with a chip on his shoulder, and he opened some eyes.
100 miles an hour and a couple outstanding breaking balls.
Absolutely, with the changeup and to this point with basically a total package, composure, mound presence. He's at this point the real deal.
What do you tell a guy like Shelby Miller in your limited experience with him?
Shelby's got to keep pitching. He's got to find a way that when he comes into camp, he's got to be ready to go. Even last year, early on, he wasn't as good as he was towards the end of the year. So Shelby really needs to make sure that he comes in here ready to go.
A walk to Velez, and it brings in Adron Chambers, who doubled off the wall in left. Wind-aided double, it looked like, the first time up, but he'll take it.
And Derek, we might find out a little bit about the psyche of Shelby Miller when all of a sudden his name isn't talked about as much as, say, like Rosenthal and Seacrest.
Well, that's the beauty of it. You never know where guys are at, who's outworking you, and sometimes guys catch you and surpass you. You got to just make sure you look in the mirror every day and make sure you give it your best.
Derek, what do you tell your guys now that are established, that are on this team? You know, the Westbrooks, the Loesch's, the guys that you know are going to be there and go north with you. What do you tell them to try to accomplish here in the last 10 to 14 days of spring training?
Basically, it's just we're completing the work to build them up to game quantities, and right now it's about getting the feel of your secondary pitches and making them game ready for the start of the year, and mentally putting yourself in a position where for game one we're going to go out there and win game one.
1 ball, 1 strike on Chambers. How about Mike Matheny? What's it been like working with Mike?
Oh, it's been great. So far so good. You know, he's a true leader, and everything about him exudes confidence, and you know, we'll go out there and give it our best, see where we're at.
1-2 the count on Chambers. How do you like this team, Derek, in particular, your expertise of the pitching staff, but the bullpen, your rotation, even minus a Chris Carpenter right now, as opposed to even at the end of last season when you won the World Series?
Well, they same guys, and with also the addition of Wainwright, and who, by the way, has been pretty solid for us to this point. Hey, why not? We're going to go out and play hard.
Absolutely. Derek, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Al.
You bet. Have a great year. Derek Lilliquist, the pitching coach of the Cardinals. Redbirds on top, 8-0. Well, get suited up for the regular season. The largest selection of authentic spring training gear is ready to roll, as well as regular season gear, including the caps and T-shirts that the pros wear. It's all available at the online shop of the Cardinals at cardinals.com. Raboski, Dan McLaughlin, and the aforementioned Jason Mott, the Cardinals closer, takes over here in the 6th inning, and the first pitch is popped up into shallow right. Bombardozzi, the leadoff man for Washington, is retired.
Now, Dan, my philosophy in spring training is, in theory, like Jason Mott. He gets 1 pitch, 1 out. You could do that, throw 3 pitches and get it out, and then you have to wait several days before you get to throw again. So I used to just, you know, walk 2 or 3 guys, give up about 6 hits so I could get my full assortment of pitches in.
Which was 1 pitch.
No, I just, yeah, it was only 1 pitch.
Your full assortment of
my full assortment
the same fastball.
Fastballs. But I think I was the worst pitcher in spring training. Worst pitcher in Florida. But I got a lot of work in, and then by opening day, I just flipped a switch and said, okay, now you're ready. Now go out there and do your thing. And that's, you know, if you got the team made, you can, you know, just get your work in and kind of build block up to opening day. But I know it's fashionable these days to say, oh, I got to make the team. But guys know who's on it and who's not.
2 balls and 1 strike on Rick Ankiel. Talk about a couple of guys that could fire a baseball. How about Mott and Rick Ankiel? Still will never forget that night in Colorado, playing center field. A couple of the balls hitting the gaps in Denver, and was able to gun a couple of runners out. And then the reaction of the bench, especially on the one at third base, where you can see the guys, Chris Duncan in particular, just going crazy over that play. You just don't see major league players do that.
No, and you know, but if you think back about it, it kind of hurt him, because after that he tried to,
great point,
kind of, you know, like he tried to, you know, duplicate that feat and everything, and made some bad choices on some of his throws and never had the accuracy. But for that one game, those 2 throws were eye-opening.
I don't think anybody could even fathom mentally what Rick Ankiel went through, and the struggles of not being able to do what he loves, which is get on a mound and throw the baseball and have control of it. To go through that, the stressful times, and remember, it was a lot of times here at the back fields of this complex where they would have him early in the morning trying to get it figured out. And I still, in the back of my mind, wonder when his everyday playing career is through, meaning position player, if he just says, look, I'll give him one more shot, I'll try to get back on the mound and see if I can't figure this thing out. If that's what keeps me in the league, if that's what gets me a job, I'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, there could be, but you know, I didn't think he would ever get to the big leagues and be as successful as a hitter as he has. So it's remarkable what he's been able to do.
2-0 the count on Mark DeRosa. We saw Mott over the weekend against Detroit. Did not have great control in that one inning of work. A couple of walks. Nearly hit a couple of batters too, but as Derek Lilliquist said moments ago, it's been a fairly good spring for Mott.
And it's not uncharacteristic to me that, you know, he's struggling a little bit with everything. It's sort of a trademark of a hard thrower that they take a little bit more time to come around.
And he misses in, and it's a walk to DeRosa, so back-to-back walks after getting the first man in the first pitch.
He started following my
I guess that's where he's going here. Right. Jason Mott last year was 5-2, 68 innings, as he appeared in 78 games, 2.25 ERA. Remember, he had that remarkable streak of around 30 games in which he did not allow a run. Single season record with those 78 appearances for a righty. Cardinals history. 33 consecutive appearances without allowing a run. That was over 26 innings, so that's why that ERA was just over 2. Led the team with 20 holds, 9 saves, and 13 opportunities. And all those saves came after the All-Star break. Remember, Ryan Franklin was the Redbirds' closer.
Had Franklin go early, but then Salas led the ball club with 24 saves, but kind of ran out of gas. And then Mott took over.
Working more on those secondary pitches, and that means the cutter, slider, if you will.
We've seen a lot of them trying to throw change-ups and different things, and your mind's kind of telling you, okay, you need to work on these pitches, but then combative juices get flowing and you want to just revert back to being a thrower.
Come on, Art.
Here's a 1-2 pitch to Chad Tracy. Slowly hit to short. Out at second. And that will be an out, even though Descalso did drop the baseball.
Yeah, but it was in the exchange, you know, he reached in, not a double play ball, wasn't hit hard enough. Descalso gets it and reaches in to take the ball out, and it comes out, but constitutes a force out. He had control of it long enough.
Jason Mott selected in the 19th round in 2003, and at that time he was a catcher. Of course, the story goes, as he'll tell you, couldn't hit a breaking ball, but he had an arm that could fire triple digits, so he becomes a pitcher. Just hit 96 on the gun, and really, Al, you think about what he's been able to do. We talk about Ankiel moving from pitcher to an everyday player. Well, I guess most people would say it's a little easier this way to go about it, everyday player to a pitcher, but his progression has been rapid.
Well, he did something that's very difficult, and you know, he worked and developed a couple pitches at the major league level and during the championship season.
Just to do it in the major leagues, much less
under the pressure.
Yeah.
You know, you're not like a second division team and you're just trying to, you know, it's no pressure whether you win or lose this ball game. You could work on your future. Well, he had to do it when he was asked at times even to close out games.
Cardinals with a lefty getting loose in the pen. Looks like Zipchinski as Bernardina is on deck, and you can see how close he is to the batter's box. 0-2 the count. That one hit 98. Port Huron, Michigan for Jason Mott. That's where he's from. He'll turn 30 on June 22nd. This particular facility, it's the older ballparks in the way that they're set up with the bullpens in play. Beautiful facility. This is, of course, the main field for both the Marlins and the Cardinals in spring training.
It's 15 years now, the Cardinals spring training here in Jupiter.
With a grounder hit to short, forced play at second. Scoreless inning turned in by Mott. Midway through 6, 8-0 St. Louis. Tyler Green home run earlier this afternoon. Spring training 2012. Grapefruit League from Jupiter, Florida. Al Raboski, Dan McLaughlin with you. And again, we'll be with you from Port St. Lucie on Saturday, noon St. Louis time on Fox Sports Midwest. And after that, partner, we get ready for Milwaukee. There's a base hit up the middle for Matt Carpenter. First game of the season will be in Florida to kick off all of Major League Baseball. One game, open up the new stadium, and then we'll head to Milwaukee.
Carpenter, his second hit. Good to see him give this one off the left-hander, Detweiler. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but we have 2 13s playing short in second.
I'll see the number 13 very often.
And Blanco is still playing second base, and there's that Blanco at short now, and Seth Bynum at second base. I guess they got names to them.
That helps. Here's Brian Anderson. A catcher that can hit from the left side. Usually a very valuable commodity.
A lot of times, you know, most desirable if you have a right-handed hitting catcher to have a backup that's left-handed.
3-1 the count. Sal, Ronnie, Dick, Jimmy, and Herman all watching today at Nicoletti's in Frontenac. And Jim Jackson, our producer and engineer on the radio side, would like to say hello to his buddies. Full jam shot to second, and everybody is safe. Tough play. Couldn't come up with it. And the first 2 have reached here in the 6th.
That just kind of fights it off. Maybe broke the bat. A lot of English on that ball, spinning all over, and Blanco couldn't come up with it. Blanco started at second, now playing short.
You say tough play, Al, because of the footwork and the way the ball was moving too.
And you got the bag right there in play. So now we got our third 13. Cora.
Here's Cora. What do we know about Alex Cora, Al? He's been around a long time.
13, around a long time, play multiple positions, trying to make it as a utility player. And the fact that he can play shortstop gives him, you know, is the difference maker in my mind. You know, if you can play the other positions but can't play shortstop, you really don't have that much value. But if you can play first, second, third, and short, then you have a lot of value.
Originally drafted back in 1993 by the Minnesota Twins, did not sign. and then was drafted by the Dodgers in '96, made his debut in the major leagues in 1998. He's been with Cleveland and Boston as well, the Mets. And last year he was with Washington, appeared in 91 games. 2-2 the count. Waiting for it to break.
Yeah, breaking ball and didn't quite break. Sometimes a little effectively wild, so put a little fear in the hitter.
And the 3-2 pitch. Fights it off.
You want to go with a 36-year-old with experience, or would you rather take a shot at a younger player that came through your farm system?
Good question. That's where the versatility of Descalso comes into play too.
And in my mind, you know, you go with a guy like Descalso, but then he may be already on the team. You're fighting for another spot. It's interesting. Remember Komatsu, who was the Rule 5 pick. And if you, I kind of got the impression talking with Bob Boone, the farm director for the Nationals, and that's who the Cardinals drafted Komatsu from, is they wouldn't make a trade. They want him back. And other people have said, and in order to make a trade so you could send him to the minor leagues, you still have to clear waivers. And it used to be a formality, you know, kind of a gentleman's, you let my guy go through, I'll let your guy go through, but a little more cutthroat today.
Time is called by Cora. Nobody out as we play here in the bottom of the 6th. That's how you know it's spring training. You've got guys doing some running in the outfield. In the field of play. Another foul ball. Tyler Green making some new fans down that right field line.
How more fun signing autographs after a home run.
You bet. Shane Robinson on deck. And it's another 3-2 pitch. Here it comes. Popped up left side. Foul territory. And out of room.
Cardinals lead 8-0. They have out-hit the Nationals 13-3.
Busy day of sports here on Fox Sports Midwest. We've got Blues hockey coming up later tonight. Blues and the LA Kings. Blues in the midst of a 7-game road trip. Three-two again. Hit the bat.
Yeah. Well, you be thankful it hit the bat. It's because the sound that hit your hand, you might be looking at a broken hand. So that's a little bit embarrassing. 12 pitches is not.
Three-two pitch. And a ground ball to the right side. And there's one away. They get the man at second. report today that Michael Morse, who we mentioned earlier, he had 31 home runs last season for Washington, received a plasma injection, and likely to start the season on the DL. Apparently it's a similar procedure that A-Rod underwent last winter in Europe. Out to left, caught. Runner tags up. That's Carpenter, and it's an RBI for Shane Robinson.
Couple of hits, now an RBI for Shane. Couple runs scored.
First baseman number 38, Mark Hamilton.
So with 2 down, here is Mark Hamilton. He has spent a lot of the time here in spring training nursing an injury. And this is a guy where you also look at time could be running out on him too. Needs to make that charge this year. Last season he had 213.
And now the talk of camp is, Adams. So you're absolutely right about Hamilton. Did have a game winner from last year. Exciting play, kind of a little squibber right down the third base line. Rolling, fielded it in foul territory. Made an unbelievable throw, and Hamilton just beat it out.
Here's the 0-2 pitch to Hamilton. And he strikes out against the lefty. Cardinals add to their lead. 9-0 as we head to the 7th. Whether home or on the road, keep track of the Cardinals with a 2012 schedule magnet. Compliments of Busch Beer. Fans 21 and older receive a Cardinals and Busch Beer magnet schedule on opening day. That's opening day in St. Louis, Friday, April 13th against the Cubs. And again, the only way to get those opening day tickets is with an opening day pack. Bernardino will face the lefty Mark Zepchinski. Zepchinski is a guy that came over from Toronto along with Octavio Dotel. And Colby Rasmus deal really solidified left side of the bullpen for St. Louis a year ago. Just go back to his matchups with Prince Fielder and how big those were in postseason play.
Yeah, he just so valuable because he can have that specialist role. You could stretch him out. You could even spot start him. And maybe down the road, he's still relatively young, he could even enter the rotation.
One at a time. Here we go.
Zepchinski has talked about Dotel and how important that he was part of that deal last year with the Cardinals. Dotel was terrific against right-handers, but also Zepchinski said, I didn't know anybody in the Cardinals clubhouse except Dotel. So those two forged a nice bond in that deal and also out in the bullpen. And he said Dotel really gave him a lot of confidence in talking with him about situations, that he belongs, that he can be an elite lefty out of the bullpen. And at times he was last year. The 3-2 pitch. Nasty pitch and a strikeout. First of the afternoon for Mark Zepchinski.
10 strikeout by Cardinal pitching, 9 by Garcia. A little breaking ball right there. Looks like it's going to start behind your back and then over the middle of the plate.
Here's Brett Carroll. 0 for 2 today with a ground out and a strikeout. Real story for the Cardinals this afternoon, the 5 innings of Jaime Garcia. And he struck out 9 and only allowed 3 base hits. Carroll, one of the guys that's trying to catch on a spot for Davey Johnson. Would love to see a better pinch hitting role for a number of his guys on the bench this year. Last year, As a team, pinch hitters hit 186 and drove in a total of 14 runs. That's it for the entire 6 months of the regular season. Good start for Zipchinski, 2 away with 2 strikeouts.
I might want to start a left-handed pitcher against the Nationals. Of course, they don't have Zimmerman, they don't have Morris, they don't have Worth in their lineup.
There's no doubt they've struggled against the lefties today.
But today, that's 11 strikeouts in 5 2/3 innings for left-handers today.
Ball scoots away from the bullpen of the Nationals, and this is Blanco at the plate. Andres Blanco is 0 for 2. He's lined out and popped out. Cardinals with another lefty getting loose. Looks like Romero getting loose. And it is. There's Dyer Miller in the background. He's been added to the staff for Mike Matheny, wearing number 49.
And Dyer returned from his brother's funeral. Brother had his own sawmill and everything, and involved in an accident, was killed. Tree fell on him, right?
I believe so.
They've been in the business 50 years. Just one of those freak accidents.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. Washington will open up with Chicago at Wrigley Field in Steven Strasburg. He's been named the opening day starter. He's never pitched at Wrigley. As a matter of fact, he's never been to Chicago to visit the city. Strasburg did make 5 starts in September. Struck out 24 in 24 innings last year. Be the 5th opening day starter for the Nationals.
Yeah, a lot of people say, why? But he needed that to make sure he was healthy for the winter.
Time to stretch. 9-zip, St. Louis. Nine 13-1 for the Cardinals. 0-3-0 for Washington. Jaime Garcia just outstanding today. The Cardinals lefty. 9 strikeouts. And some new additions for the Cardinals and the pitching staff, as well as their coaching staff. Here's Mr. Maloney, who's been in the minor leagues for a number of years. He was a manager at AAA a season ago. Goes by the nickname Hammer. So he'll be with us this year. John Mabry, Jose Oquendo is back. Dyer Miller, Derek Lilliquist, Mike Matheny, Mark McGuire.
Rodriguez on the mound. And here's a young man that last year at A-ball flirted with 400. Taveras. And they say this kid, he's only like 19 years of age, and they say he has a chance to be very special.
One guy that really took notice of Taveras was Albert Pujols. Last spring training, Albert actually gave him a bat. Taveras said he used it one time, and he said, I'm going to keep this, but I don't want to break it. So that was it with that bat. Now they feel this guy is an absolute stud. Found it interesting in our visit with Derek Lilliquist earlier today, Al, about Shelby Miller, where he is at right now. And he came into camp in great shape. Body percentage of fat was in single digits. But the Cardinals were a little, I don't want to say upset with that, because he obviously is in very good shape. But for the long haul of a season, as Taveras strikes out, they don't want him to be too thin or underweight. because of the grind of trying to pitch every 5th day.
Yeah.
Here's Descalso.
Tavares didn't get cheated, did he?
No, he did not.
Hit 386 last year at Quad Cities. Lead the league. His minor league career average is 322.
Strike to Daniel Descalso. Last pitch by this right-hander was at 98. 0-1 pitch to Descalso. And it's 0-2.
Daniel's kind of getting the reputation as being a very solid and winning player.
Slaps it the other way. Wind has been blowing out that way and making a running catch for Medina. Nice play on left. Seen the ball just jump out there.
That's why sometimes it's so hard to judge here. The way the wind blows, the flag's kind of still in right field, but as you say, it kind of gets in a little jet stream out there, takes off. Many times the wind blows straight out to right field here.
Saw Detweiler, his connection, the roots to Missouri State. He's pitched in this ball game for Washington, trying to make the club out of their bullpen. Biggest concern they've had with him was mechanics. We saw him nearly hit Cora a couple of times. He's hit 98 on the gun. This right-hander also has been as low as 83. 0-1 pitch to Velez.
Velez seen Major League time with San Francisco and then last year with Los Angeles. And pitchers had their way with him. 34 games, 37 at bats, 0 for 37.
Cardinals will be here tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll be in Port St. Lucie Saturday afternoon. You can see that game at noon at St. Louis time on Fox Sports Midwest. Cards and Mets Saturday. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Slowly hit to second. And they just got him by a half step. Cardinals with 13 hits today. They lead this ball game 9-0. Well, they're celebrating their 20th anniversary. It's Cardinals Magazine, true keepsake for baseball's best fans. And right now they're standing by at Busch Stadium. If you'd like to order Cardinals Magazine, there's some great deals going on with the magazine as well, with free tickets and also a look back at the World Series with the commemorative issue. But here's the number to call: 314-345-9303. 314-345-9303. You can go online, cardinals.com/publications. Steve Zesh and his crew are standing by. Here is Romero, who will take over for the Redbirds. As we move to the 8th inning, Romero and Zubchinski will be the two lefties this year out of the pen for Mike Matheny.
Another good lefty coming out of the bullpen who has World Series experience, pitching for Philadelphia a few years back.
Came up with Minnesota back in 1999. It's been with the Angels, Boston, the Phillies. Last season, Colorado. 12 games for Colorado, 8 1/3, and opponents hit nearly .330 against him.
Doesn't throw as hard as he did at one time.
There's an off-speed pitch. Whitey Herzog Tell you what, you ask Whitey about different players around the major leagues, and certainly with the Cardinals, he still calls St. Louis home. And he knows what's going on, the comings and goings of the players, who looks good, who doesn't. Such a great eye for talent, and another strikeout for a left-hander today for St. Louis.
That was against Hood, who, probably being Double-A for the Nationals. He had a full ride in a football player. He was a wide receiver who was going to go to Alabama and would have been on their national championship team.
This is Bynum, still looking for his first hit of the spring. Two strikes on Bynum. One and two the count. And a strikeout for Romero.
Right fielder number 22, Christopher Raw.
Backdoor breaking ball and gets called strike. So 9 for Garcia, 2 for Zepchinski, 2 for Romero.
Christopher Rawl is the hitter. And a lazy fly ball, or is it? Look at this carry out in the left center. Catch is made on the run by Shane Robinson. A 1-2-3 inning for Romero. Redbirds lead it by 9 runs this afternoon. 9-0 St. Louis. We're in Jupiter, Florida, Roger Dean Stadium. Raboski, Dan McLaughlin with you, and our Fox Sports Midwest crew. Again, Blues hockey coming up later tonight on Fox Sports Midwest. And preseason baseball, spring training ball, Saturday at noon. Cardinals will face a lefty, Severino, here in the bottom of the 8th. Right-hander getting loose for the Redbirds in the pen. Adron Chambers leads it off. Where are we at, you think, Al, right now as far as the complications concerning who makes this team the bench? Chambers was a valuable guy down the stretch last year because of his speed. And I mentioned the complications of it because Skip Schumacher is going to start the season on the DL.
Yeah, he starts in DL, so it kind of opens up the spot. Chambers and maybe Komatsu are kind of battling there, but you've also seen
ground ball to first, and Chambers retired for the first out.
You've seen that the competition. Go for that first name, Dan.
AS is on the mound.
Be careful with that one too.
Well, the notes, yeah, well, the notes, it just says that's his nickname, Al, so I'm going with that.
Okay.
I don't think anybody else got those notes that I got.
Yeah, but like we were talking about, that Carpenter's showing his versatility. Matt Carpenter plays third base his primary position, but can go first, third, corner outfields.
Concern at all with a lack of power off the bench as Carpenter lines it over the shortstop and into left field for a 1-out base hit.
Not necessarily, and that's 3 hits for Carpenter. Came in, didn't start this ball game, so Carpenter's trying to show what he can do offensively. He opened up eyes, and he's also the kind of guy that the organization loves, the way he plays and hustles. But you got Alan Craig, And if Alan Craig's playing, then you might have a Holiday or a Berkman on the bench, or a Beltran to provide some of that power. So yes and no.
And a strike to Brian Anderson. He's at an even 500 this spring. No home runs, 2 RBIs. Cora is on deck.
You mentioned that Brian Anderson and some of these guys kind of feel like maybe this is their last time that they, if it's going to work with the Cardinal organization, they have to show something. Well, every game you're out there, there's a lot of scouts in the stands.
Here's the 0-2. Anderson, a swing and a miss. He strikes out. And that's out number 2, and it's up to Cora to extend the inning. I believe that's Linebrink that's getting loose down to the bullpen for the Cardinals. I said that he was hitting consistently, Al, the other day, 96, 97 on the gun.
And, you know, for a 10-year veteran, he didn't show me a lot by telling me, no, I really wasn't throwing that hard. That's when you got to say, yeah, that was a slow day.
I felt great. It was live. It was loose. A strike on the outside corner to Cora. 2 outs and a runner at first. A 9-run lead for St. Louis. Cardinals picked up a run in the second, 2 in the third, 5 in the fourth, and another in the sixth. Going to the count.
These hitters have not been real happy with the strike zone, but it hasn't been that bad.
Oh-2 pitch. Puts it in play, left side. Force play at second. And we head to the 9th inning. Linebrink coming on when we come back. Cards are back right here on Fox Sports Midwest, your home of baseball all season long. We'll have 152 regular season games and all games in HD. Pre and post game shows with Jim Hayes, Cal Eldred, Rick Horton, and Pat Paris. But all season long right here on Fox Sports Midwest. The Cardinals pitching has been terrific here this afternoon with only 3 hits allowed, anchored by Jaime Garcia. He struck out 9. And they'll turn it over to Scott Linebrink, right-hander. Could fill a very valuable role, especially if Lance Lynn is moved to the rotation, and by all accounts that will be the case. So you've got a spot out there from the right side. Cardinals are looking at potential of a setup man in the 8th, like a Linebrink.
Well, he's also, you know, I think because of a 10-year experience and what he's done in the past.
Good play to his left. That's Carpenter. You saw Freeze earlier make a dandy play. And there's 1 out.
As Dan, just think about how valuable he could be as the guy to get you through an inning. So, ground ball specialist, he gets a ground ball, and very nice play here by Carpenter. Not only is he going to his left, you know, wide-ranging ball, but they hit that left and stayed down on him. The lip, the edge of the grass and dirt. I think, you know, there was all the rumors about Kyle McClellan being traded and everything. I think because of also with Lance Lynn going into the rotation to take care of Carpenter's spot, at least initially. You know, then I think McClellan has to almost stay. You know, all of a sudden you think about it, wait a minute, we need to keep him around too. I was a little surprised when Linebrink chose to come to the Cardinals with all the right-handers, you know, bullpen guys, but like Derek Loquist said, you know, he's throwing just as good as those young guys, but experience will overrule a lot of times.
1 ball, 1 strike. Derek Lilliquist and Mike Matheny now outside the dugout and just watching very closely here. Scott Linebrink in the 9th inning. Boy, it's nice to see Lou Brock and Gibson and Red Shanings, Whitey Herzog, Ozzie Smith in uniform and helping out. Sliding catch on left for out number 2. Well done by Adron Chambers.
Well, we were told how raw he is. You know, a lot of talent, but very raw as a baseball player. But at least at the major league level, we really never saw Chambers make any mistakes. And there he makes a nice play defensively. Pretty convincing game right here the Cardinals have played. Dominant pitching, good defense.
There's a line drive into right, drops in for a base hit, and the game is extended.
Batting number 2, Roger Bernardino.
Brings in Roger Bernardino. Carlos Beltran made his start today in center field. Has played in center field as a regular since 2010. A couple of hits today.
You'd have to believe for a long since surgery, that knee will get stronger.
And you figure the idea would be too, Al, that against left-handed pitching like today, Gio Gonzalez gives John Jay a chance to take a day off in regular season play. You work in Craig in there too.
Now when Craig gets in there, who, you know, is going to be one of your big bats against left-handers.
Here's a fly ball into center field. 4 hits allowed by the Cardinals today. That's it. They banged out 14 and they win it 9-0. Jaime Garcia was sensational in his start for Mike Matheny today.
No doubt about it. Garcia was outstanding. Had one time where with one out and runner at third base and was able to pitch around that situation. He goes 5 shutout innings, no walks, 9 strikeouts. On the day, the Cardinals have 13 strikeouts and just a convincing victory against the Nationals.
Well, behind the pitching of St. Louis, some very good defense. David Freese early on to his left. How about Yadier Molina, the Gold Glover, pouncing on this and firing a bullet to first. A couple of more to tell you about.
Carpenter at third.
He looked good at the plate
Chambers.
as well. Yep. So the Cardinals with good pitching and defense.
Good running the bases too.
A lot of little things that added up to a win. 14 hits, 9 runs. Back to wrap it up in a moment. Back in Jupiter, Florida to wrap it up. The Cardinals win it 9-0. Great pitching by Jaime Garcia. He strikes out 9. Our next telecast is coming up Saturday afternoon from Port St. Lucie, Florida. The Cardinals and the Mets. And that game will be at noon St. Louis time. Line break, the final 3 outs. The Cardinals have their 11th win of this spring. For Al, I'm Dan, and our crew, thanks for being with us. 9-0, our final.